Craig, just give us the situation you're dealing with. I know it's tough and it's a situation that nobody wants to go through, but it sounds like it's just trying to play high school hockey during this weird COVID season.
It is. It actually is. Was the season started a month late. We had to get a protocol approved with the St. Louis County Department of Health. We play games St. Louis County. We don't play anything in St. Louis City. We play games in St. Charles County. St. Charles and St. Louis County have different set of guidelines. St. Louis County is a little more strict, so that became our guidelines for our league, regardless of what county we were playing our games in or our teams are from. So we are a gate revenue-driven organization. We charge admission for our varsity games. We were not able to do that this year with attendance requirements. So we had money in reserve. We were able to fund the season through league reserves at this point. The clubs agreed to that. The league is run by a board, volunteer board elected by the members of the organization. Each organization has a vote. So that's how the board comes about. It's not not appointed, elected by the officials or by the clubs. So we developed a protocol, a COVID protocol, and it was approved by the Department of Health, St. Louis County. If a player tested positive for COVID and had contact, and I'm paraphrasing a bit here, I don't have it exactly memorized, and they tested positive for COVID and had team activities, whether it be a practice or a game, within 48 hours of testing positive, that team was placed in quarantine for 14 days. They'd have their games rescheduled if it was during the regular season, if possible. And we made the decision, and once the playoffs started, if a team tested positive, they were going to be out of the playoffs, because we couldn't just keep, you don't know which teams are going to test positive, things like that. So that was the decision. This year we had 3 teams test positive in the playoffs and their season ended. We probably had half our clubs affected during the season with a quarantine, either a JV or varsity team. And I'm guessing just about every team had their schedule affected because of this. When we had time early in the season, December, maybe the first part of January, we were able to reschedule the games. After that, we didn't have extra ice to reschedule games. Some teams rescheduled their games when their quarantine ended on their practice ice to get games in. We tried to get as many games as possible. The season was shortened by calendar length and games for both JV and varsity. So where do we draw the line when the playoffs start? If a team tests positive and they're going to be quarantined for 14 days, that goes into the next round of the playoffs. That team's basically eliminated from the playoffs, much the same way Misha did with high school football. You saw teams play a game on Friday night, and they were supposed to play the following Wednesday or whatever it was. On Monday, it comes out they had to forfeit because of COVID. And so Misha had the same kind of protocol. So there were a lot of teams that lost their playoffs in high school football that I'm aware of because of COVID. It's the same situation. They're trying to. We've got 2 teams in particular. Their fans and parents are upset. Rockwood Summit and Francis Howell. They were in the final 8 of the top tier tournament, the Challenge Cup, and it's unfortunate. We also had a team, Webster Groves, who the same way. They were in the Founders Cup bracket, tested positive. It's very unfortunate, but if you push the schedule back for one team, you got to push it back for all, and each team tests positive. At what point? So we're just being consistent. We've been consistent the entire season with this, and to be able to have a season is one thing. During this, there's a lot of people, a lot of clubs, a lot of members of the board who've put a lot of time in to make this happen, to get to this point. I think we just should recognize it took a lot to get to this point, and it's unfortunate it's what's happened. The 3 teams had their season end because of the COVID protocol we have to follow to actually have a season. They didn't get a chance to play it out on the ice, and that is unfortunate.
As you said earlier, that if you do the 14-day quarantine, that would actually fit with the schedule, but then what if another team tested positive and you could just keep pushing it, and with ice time and all that, it sounds like it would have been a logistical nightmare. And as you stated earlier, you made this decision beforehand, and you're sticking to the decision.
Exactly, and the entire season's been a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
So let's try to focus on the positive in what a lot of kids lost a season of sports, either last spring or even this fall, whatever. We were able to get an abbreviated season in and the playoffs. I'm just glad we were able to do as much as we can and try to focus on the positive side of this and understand, hey, it wasn't an easy call. You know, it's not something we wanted to do, but there's just not unlimited resource, unlimited logistics and calendar time to keep pushing everything back. We're just getting roasted. And someone just posted on social media 2 of our board members' phone numbers
Oh, really?
to call and complain. Yeah. And so, you know, I just want people to realize that, you know, we're run by volunteers. It's a volunteer organization, and we're doing everything we can to have a season. We're not picking favorites. We're just being consistent. We have been all season. And it's, you know, I heard the question this morning, well, what if it was CBC or DeSmet? And my response to that, their schools would probably, their athletic directors would pull them out before Mid-States made the call. Because those schools, many schools in our league have school involvement with athletic directors and whatnot. Most of the private schools and a few of the public schools, but there are also public schools that have zero support from their school, that kids aren't even allowed to wear their jersey on game days, things like that, and that's kind of sad. But you know, we're just trying to be consistent, and that's all we are.